welcome back to the Goatworn Armcast. Another week of sodium-filled content straight into your ear holes. I'm going to keep changing these week on week and see what I like, because, we play it fast and loose here. So
That's what she said.
Not even 60 seconds.
Yeah, that's what she said. With me, as per usual, we have Guthrum of Norvik, Just Eastern Things, and the Shire Reeve. So how's your week been? Guthrum of Norvik, leaving aside your table of fun, what have you been up to this week?
Work. Mostly work. I've also been dyeing some cloth for my late Roman impression, which is
I too have been dyeing some cloth for my late Roman impression.
Wait your turn. You'll get your fucking chance.
By Odin, behave yourself or you'll get a taste of my chair.
Yes.
Not even a minute in, and we already referenced that.
No, you already intentionally referenced that, which doesn't count because you said you were going to reference it.
Stop giving people a peek behind the curtain.
Anyway, yes.
Already off-eaten.
Anyway, I've dyed my my cloak a glorious indigotin blue, and I've just finished dyeing my scarf, which I'm not going to try and pronounce the proper Latin name for, a nice crimsony red. Well, a bit darker than crimson, but you know what I mean. So they're all very nice.
The focal, or
that's the one.
Focal.
I have no idea how to
probably
pronounce
focale.
That sounds more like it, to be honest. I know Ross correct me in the comment. But nice. I had fun making that for my LARP impression. It was literally just, I've got a spare piece of material. Does it fit? Yes. Tie it in a knot? Done. That's the beauty of it for at least a legionary impression, was that, half these things you can make from spare cloth because that's what they would have done with old tunic.
That's pretty much what I did with mine. It was a bolt of cloth I bought at Jorvik that was earmarked to become a tunic that I'm no longer going to make. So I literally just ripped the length off it, cut a little notch, and just ripped it. I didn't even need to hem the edges; it just seems to hold together. So
nice,
good enough for me.
Just Eastern, what about you? What have you been up to?
Vigorous and prolific masturbation.
That's a strong image.
Everyone's got to have a hobby.
My motorbike was broken, so I fixed it by ripping something, but I don't know what it is. I ripped it off. No longer have that part of my motorbike. And Crusader Kings 3 come out.
Mechanic.
If nobody else played it. Yeah. So I've been playing some Crusader Kings 3.
I've heard good things.
Bit of a learning curve from number 2, but definitely an improvement. A very beautiful game considering its grand strategy. But obviously because it starts kind of early our age and then finishes obviously high medieval age, it's quite nice. It's quite it fits in with kind of roughly our interests. Although I guess to a certain point I've got no fucking idea apart from DS Vault, but yeah, it's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few people making memes along those lines with its release, showing off alternate history.
Yeah, so far I've been playing on this one mode. You got Iron Man mode, which means you cannot save the game manually. It saves automatically. You've only got one save, and it rolls over quite fast. So you've barely got any time to go back if you make a mistake. And I'm portraying an Irish chief, and I went on a crusade. It was interesting, being an Irishman among a lot of French, and I think there was some Polish on the very first crusade. So it was interesting.
Oh, sweet. Shire Reeve, now it's your turn. Tell us about your dying.
I died. I dyed my new diamond twill fabric, and I originally dyed it madder, and then discovered that I dyed the wrong bit of fabric, which I meant to dye like a chartreuse green colour. So it came out really faint because I'm bad. And then I over dyed it with the right dye, and it's actually come out a really nice yellow. So the plan is to get some more dye and put less of it in and over dye it to a sort of greeny yellow chartreuse as it should be, and that should do that one. And then I'm going to get some more of the madder coloured dye for the other piece that I need to do, and this is for my late Roman clothing as well.
Was that the tunic that came out that well, how did I describe it? Mountain Dew green.
It's not that colour anymore. There is.
It faded off.
It's sort of gone down to a yellowy colour.
It's
a nice yellow.
Yeah, I described it earlier as weld yellow because it is.
Well, it is. It's
very
bright
nice
weld yellow.
yellow.
But what the plan is, like I say, to over dye it because I'm trying to make it a fairly close colour to what the originals of the Thorsberg finds had. The trouser's going to be a sort of reddy madder colour, and then the tunic is going to be like a green chartreuse.
What the fuck is chartreuse?
It's like
How am I supposed to know that? No. How am I supposed to know that?
I don't know.
What is chartreuse? Describe it. I want to know in every minute detail.
Get a yellow, get a green, mix it. Chartreuse.
Mountain Dew colour.
No, that falls into it.
So like dehydrated pea.
Bit more green than that.
Kind of. But you think like kind of slightly dry grass.
Oh yeah. So pea that's been stored in the balls too long.
Of course, pea is stored in the bowls.
Where
else would it be? Where else would it be stored?
Exactly.
I mean,
we're men of science here.
I'll pull up a picture and ping it to.
I don't want to see a picture of pea stored in bowls.
No, of chartreuse.
It's literally Mountain Dew bottle colour.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or high vis yellow. High vis yellow. That's a good.
Yeah. Not to jump in or anything, but I'm not hardly the the colour king here. So using words that's far too big for my brain. Oh, chartreuse. Thank you. Fucking legend.
Hell yeah!
It does sound like some sort of Pokemon, to be honest,
or a venereal disease,
or a
it's
venereal.
Actually, booze.
Really?
Yeah, chartreuse is booze.
Oh, yeah.
Is it like some sort of French thing? It looks like a French word.
No, it's a spirit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a French
liqueur.
liqueur.
A bit like.
Called it. I knew it was going to be French.
What's
Well, with a name like chartreuse,
a bit like absinthe.
You know what? Can I present a question out to everybody? So bear with me. I'm going to consult with a third party just to see if they happen to know what it is. Lady, do you know what the word chartreuse is? No, even she said no. She's educated.
Right.
She's
Chartreuse.
educated.
I'd love to the takeaway from that of you addressing your girlfriend as, "Oi, lady."
Oi, woman.
Woman. I'm not allowed to call you woman. I don't know. So she says this.
No, but it is exactly the colour I need. If you look at a bottle of chartreuse and then look at the Thorsberg tunic, right?
And don't forget, chartreuse comes in 2 different colours, just to make things complicated.
Yeah, it's true.
It varies between yellow and green.
Right, I see.
There's yellow chartreuse and green chartreuse.
As long as it wasn't like...
This is a rather niche aside.
Yes, I think we've gone so far along the tangent, we're on to another tangent.
So aside from your Mountain Dew tunic...
no, it's not like... we've been over this. It came out a yellow.
Yeah, but, for the sake of entertainment. Now, we're discussing about what to talk about this week, because we always try and pick a topic week on week to somewhat herd us in the right direction, as we've just demonstrated we do tangent a lot.
Like herding cats.
Yeah, autistic cats that keep like finding some new topic to.
All cats are autistic.
So we settled on impressions that we'd like to see more of. Get us started. So, at least in our hobby, I do notice that we see a lot of similar portrayals. And at least there is a lot of variety, but it does seem to be quite widely spread. Now, I think it was Shara Reeve, you brought up this topic. So, did you have a couple in mind that you would want to see more of in terms of portrayals?
I have a few that I'd like to see more of. And I'd say mostly continental European, but there are a couple of ones, within the UK that would be nice to see more of, I think. One of the ones that comes to mind is Frisians, as they were a fairly big superpower in the period. They were a massive trading empire, and you don't actually see that many Frisian impressions, which is a bit odd, really, because they were they traded massively with England. And a couple of the other ones I'd say are, I think we don't see many niche roles. Like, I mean, I am going to be a bit biased here. Like, you don't see many Reeves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not well done.
I don't mean that as a joke. I genuinely mean, I only know one other person who does a Reeve impression, and he's in Normanus, and that is Barcy. But other than that, I don't know anyone. A lot of people do the whole tax collection trope or some other element of it occasionally, but I don't know many who do a dedicated impression. And there are a number of different roles within the Anglo-Saxon and Norse social systems that you could say the same for.
Okay. We'll put those, because obviously that's along quite a big selection in of itself. Just to go back to the first one you mentioned of Frisians, what would that require in terms of a portrayal? What would that actually look like in terms of kit?
So Frisians, I believe the basic clothes were fairly similar to what you see typically. I mean, I'm not too clued up, but I know that they're likely to have had an oval neck tunic, as that was a popular form of neckline on the continent, with a tablet or possibly embroidered decoration around the outside of the neckline. I'd expect to see a mix of different styles of pillbox hat. There's a couple of different Frisian caps that have extended rear flaps, which I find really fascinating. There's two finds, I believe, or they're either finds or manuscript depictions, and then there's a pillbox find from Lean, which is in modern day Netherlands, and so we know they wore a lot of pillbox hats.
That's like the one you wear, isn't it? Pillbox.
Yeah. Mine's based on the Hedeby one, though.
Gotcha.
It's more similar to the Hedeby one anyway, with a mammon embroidery.
And I suppose for those of us who aren't clued up on our geography, whereabouts were the Frisians based in relation to the Anglo-Saxons and the Vikings?
Frisia.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that in modern day, it's still Frisia. It's northwestern Netherlands, and yeah, I believe technically now it's called Frieseland. And Hilbert's going to butcher me for that pronunciation. But yeah, so you you had, and back in the day, because of its position, it was a massive trading empire. Because it's where the Netherlands goes up and then in, so it's on that corner, and it was a massive port region.
I'm now looking at it on a map. It's bang between Denmark and East Anglia.
Yep, that's right.
See, although it seems obvious to shout Frisia at our listeners, the saying that it's between Denmark and what did you say, Anglia?
East Anglia.
Anglia.
The lumpy bit on the east coast of England.
Yeah, that's
where
also,
I'm from.
the Frisian Empire at the time was much bigger as well. It covered
absolutely. This
down towards Amsterdam and towards Brussels and up towards northern Germany.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find a period
coastal region.
Yeah, obviously it wasn't out as far as it was now, because obviously the Netherlands and Belgium have taken back a lot of the sea.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
It was a very heavily raided area, because obviously England, or the UK, so to speak, wasn't the...
that's the modern map.
Big one. Yeah, it's they raided that a lot. I think it was one of the ways they actually pissed off Charlemagne was raiding that kind of coastline. They go, "Oh, give us your loot," and then they did give him the loot, but then they got burned. Yeah, history with Eastern things, but yeah, it was a heavily kind of contested area, at least from my understanding of Frisia
for sure
in its extent. Plus, you had all the. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I've just stumbled across what, as far as I can see, is a really good Frisian impression.
Oh, let's see.
As far as I can tell,
that's a good idea. It'd be nice to show an example.
I've no idea who this is. I've just pulled this off the internet, but it's got some nice little details actually. Hang on just a minute. Again, I've just pulled this randomly off the internet. I think it's off a Frisian.
I know exactly who that is. That's he's in Regia.
Well, who'd have thunk it?
Where he's I won't mention
Telling
him
me
by
looks
name.
silly without a helmet.
I won't mention him by name, but he's a very, very nice guy.
What are those things on his knees, or just below his knees? Why is he wearing them on the outside?
Well, because they're so basically. Tom didn't know about this until I told him either. The style of hose wearing, the other option that you see a lot to leg bindings is tight-legged hose, and then because of the way hose have to be made, the knees has to be as wide as the top of your calf. So what the garters do is pull in the fabric around your the back of your knee
to make it tighter on the shin.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the shin is one streamlined piece basically, and we actually have a fair bit of evidence showing this being used in Europe and Denmark as well.
Such an underrepresented.
In my opinion, it's one of the most underrepresented. And
Middle Harling has them. My high-end impression I'm working on has a buckle by the knee, which is obviously from.
Me and Tom were discussing that when he showed me Middle Harling, and
because I personally couldn't place it until I showed Alex. He said, "Oh yeah, that's a garter."
Because I was familiar with it from a later period as well.
Yeah, I was going to say it's interesting seeing that. One of the things that got brought up on one of our Eastern, one of my Eastern groups I'm a member in, where we discuss stuff, was how a lot of people now are actually ditching kind of Forsberg level trousers, or if they are wearing them, instead of going for leg wraps, they're going for hose.
Good.
And it's becoming ever more popular now, especially because there's a sizable contingent of us, unfortunately, want to become Norman. I'm one of those.
Well, to be fair, that you can use the same hose and the same garters for both, like, Danish and, all the way to Norman. So I can understand it.
But that's interesting. I might look into that a little bit more. If there's any details, I'd be very interested in.
For sure, yeah.
Finding out more.
Oh,
he looks baller though, doesn't he? He's
lovely.
He's looking in the distance like, fuck you, peasant.
He's a swish bastard. He's an absolute swish bastard. I mean, he's also, like I say, he's very good at writing, and I believe he does a lot of pigment stuff as well. And yeah, it's a really nicely put together impression.
Yeah, it's proper gorgeous, that impression.
And I see what you mean with your statement earlier, that it's not dissimilar soft kit-wise to what we already have. I guess the distinction is the smaller details, but those smaller details would be unmistakable.
Like the hat. Very clearly a Frisian style.
I think what I
For
would
the period,
say is
anyway.
this impression could also be Danish in a way, because we have a similar hat found in, up in Denmark and so on. So just showing, that the styles were fairly ubiquitous. Also, I found another picture that we won't show on the podcast, but. You can see it has an oval neckline that's faced with tablet.
Let's have a look. Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's a really nicely put together impression.
Absolutely. And I recall reading somewhere that's also, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, that's also a specific style of cloak he's wearing. That's specific to Frisia.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that one, but I could well be.
I'll have to.
What is it about the cloak that makes it?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm now looking into it.
Yeah,
I remember
that's fair.
yonks ago, and
I suppose it is. It does look like a single layer, so it's quite short. Unless I'm looking at it wrong. It may not be. I may just be. No, because it's doubled up in that second photo and not in that first.
I could be wrong. It could be something totally weird I've picked up. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, Guthrum, are there any impressions that you don't see a lot of and would like to see more of?
Oof, let me think. Oh, there's lots, really. I think in general, reenactment is too vague. It's too generic. You see lots of Vikings and lots of Saxons, but you don't see any regional variation, like Irish Sea area Saxons or Danes, or Anglo-Danes, Anglo-Norse, sorry, because it'd be Anglo-Norse in that area. You don't see any, well, very rarely anyways, specifically Gotlandic impressions. That's not such a good example because there are a few kicking around, but certainly not as many as I'd personally like to see, because it's a gorgeous impression. Lots of really specialist metal work. And
the only person I know for certain that does one is Edwin, who listens to the podcast. He does quite a nice one.
Yeah, I'm aware of a couple, but still, that's not very. That's
I
not
think
very
there's
many
a couple
at all.
in Regia as well, but I don't think there's loads. And well, for example, in Regia, the stipulation is, I don't know if it's the same in, say, the Vike, but if you have one item of Gotlandic kit, your entire kit has to be Gotlandic because of the specialisation of the region. Same with Birka.
I don't know if that's a rule in the Vike, but it bloody well should be, because Gotland is so dissimilar, even from geographically close locations.
Yeah.
It's its own microcosm. It's its own, culture. Gotlandic is different to Baltic, for instance. It's got similarities, but there are noticeable differences.
And same with, for example, Birka, because even though, well, with exceptions to stylistically stuff that's stylistically from other cultures, but you can only typically say that with Birka because it's such a strange example. Yeah.
It's a mess. There's no two ways about it. But yes, that's my answer. Specializations. We don't see enough specializations, in my opinion.
That's fair enough. I think not the problem with doing that, but the limitation is, for example, for me, I'd love to do South Coast raiders, because we know that they came up to Lidford, Exeter, Hingston Down. So it'd be interesting. I'd love to be able to portray specifically the sort of raiders who came down to the southwest, being my neck of the woods. But there is a huge limitation on archaeological finds. So
yeah, I was going to say all our sources are more northern, aren't they?
yeah, that's where the lion's share of information is. And to be honest, I've had to kind of start with what was found in their home country, and then okay, so this is just assume that we know the people from that area went, a Viking, as they say. I'll just have to kind of work it that way. So
that's
I
not
can
too bad, though. I mean, at least the same origin point, and for example, the Norse that were invading the northwest weren't that different from the Norse invading the southwest.
Of course, and it's so I'm still keeping a specific, within a specific time period, within a region, even to within a grave in some cases, in my case. But I can see the limitation of, we don't see many, Irish Sea Vikings. If there's no archaeology to distinguish the kit, you've got to match the kit we do have. So I can see that being a reason for a lot of what we would call generic. But yeah, it would be lovely to have that diversity.
I suppose the other argument would be for people that are afraid of specialization, so they can do a variety of events.
That's the other thing as well.
That is a skill all in of itself, to have a generic enough kit, which you then layer with culturally specific items.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I obviously I can only speak from the perspective of my own kit, but there are things that, and I can only speak for how Regia deals with it, but there are things that Regia will not authenticate for individual date lines because they can't criticize people for only having one of those things. Tunics, for example, are either expensive to make or they take a lot of effort. So they say, did we have a neckline discussion last week, was it? Yes,
I believe we did.
Yes, so I think I said the same there. They won't authenticate necklines because, it's either, say, £50 to £100 to get one made, or it's a lot of effort and a lot of material. So they don't mind if you have one tunic to cover all, even if its neckline is specifically for one period. They also won't authenticate swords and things like art styles on Sayax sheaths and things to specific periods because, again, they're expensive items. You can't expect someone to have a sword for every period.
Yeah.
Well,
what do you mean?
Some people do that anyways.
Well, I'm hoping to do that myself, but you can't expect Joe average member.
What I was also going to add is I don't know if Regia do authenticate it or not, but I should imagine they should think about not authenticating belts because
they don't tend to. They don't tend to.
Belt styles can vary from county to county, let alone specific regions around England.
Unless it's really like out there, like Gotlandic or Swedish or something.
Yeah.
They won't. Even if to a degree someone's wearing a Scandinavian belt on an Anglo-Saxon impression, you could say, well, they're used to portraying a Scandinavian. You can't expect them to suddenly have Anglo-Saxon kit at an event where there's only Anglo-Saxons as an individual example.
Yeah, I mean, Hastings is a perfect example of that, where the Anglo-Saxon side is 90% just Vikings from throughout the Viking Age. That you've just tucked in their Thor's hammer. And the Normans, similarly, are not specifically 1066 Norman. They're like 12th to 13th, like late 12th, early 13th.
Even people in groups that do specific 1066 impressions tend to only specialize their armor and weaponry because the for example, my impression is like 1002 to 1016. Well, it can do wider than that, but that's what I say. But the soft kit is fine for 1066. Ideally, if I was doing a 1066 impression from the ground up, I would use a different neckline style, but that's really nitpicky.
what about you, Just Easton? What would you like to see more of in?
What would I like to see more of? Varangian Guard roost people with square shields. How's that?
Can we ban him from the league?
we can only go so far before stuff gets shitposty.
I
You know
would
what?
genuinely.
To be fair, good Varangian Guard. I can see that.
Yeah, but there's
We've had-
people doing good Varangian Guard that look phenomenal.
Yeah, we've
yeah.
had this argument at length in various
Yeah.
Facebook groups.
Um,
You can do it. You
Yeah.
know, it's very, very speculative. There isn't a lot to go off, but you can do it.
Yeah. I think in general, I think you touched up on it. I'd like to see more Brittonic kit. Everybody's fast to jump on Vikings because they're being brutally honest about it. Since about 2014, it's been flavor of the month. It got a lot more popular because a lot of TV shows come out, and I definitely think that's helped in it growing in a good way and in a bad way. Grimfrost, but Brittonic style kit, the actual kind of Cornish style, the Welsh, and I'm broadening this out. Obviously, very distinct kind of divides.
Yeah.
I have a very basic Welsh kit, and it involves me running around without any shoes on with a spear. But I'd like to see kind of more. I'd see native, which isn't really the best way to describe it, but more native Brittonic kit rather than.
Goatworn would be able to correct me on this, but I believe the Cornish, for example, were still in wide operation until the Great Heathen Army era.
Yeah,
until they were defeated by Alfred.
Well, whilst they were defeated, that only meant that they weren't a
independent.
They were no longer a
self-governed. They were underneath
they
the
were then
control of
under the rule of Wessex.
Yeah.
By King Ecgbert. So that will give you a dateline there. They still had their own distinct identity. And,
sorry, it was Ecgbert. Yes, my bad.
Yeah. King Ecgbert conquered the Cornish at Battle of Hingston Down. I had recently had this debate with someone because they put up a post of Cornish independence, never defeated, never conquered, and it's like, well, they were defeated. But yeah, I get the point about national identity, because even after being defeated at Hingston Down, countries and peoples outside of England.
It's the same thing with the Normans governing the Anglo-Saxons after the conquest.
Sort of. The point I was going to make was that even after that point, peoples from outside England and from Europe were looking in and describing the Cornish as a separate peoples. They were recognised as a separate, distinct people from the Anglo-Saxon in the exact same way that we would say about the Irish, the Welsh, and the Scots. Although they would be under Wessex rule, their kit and their culture would have been distinct enough that impressions of them are very worthwhile doing. It definitely wouldn't blend into the generic.
When I mentioned the event, the Hingston Down event you were talking to me about, to some of the other people in my group, they actually mentioned expressed a lot of interest at going out and doing Cornish impressions for it.
Yeah.
Because it is something that would be really cool.
Just to kind of expand that point for the listeners, I am looking to run an event in Cornwall, Battle of Hingston Down at some point. It was supposed to happen this year, but then the plague. And for those who haven't heard of the battle, it was the last stand of the Dumnoni Cornish against King Ecgbert of Wessex, and it was notable, at least highlighted to my interests, because they were accompanied by a ship company of Vikings, or Danes as they appear in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, and they camped just south of Callington, where there is a place called Danescombe, which is where the Vikings made their encampment, and then strolled up to Hingston Down to join in the battle. The Cornish and the Danes had raided Anglo-Saxon Wessex for many years prior to that. So yeah, I know your lot were interested in portraying some Dumnoni, which would be really fascinating to see what they do with the kit. I know a couple of people in my group have already started doing Gaelic and Welsh kits so that they were well on their way to having suitable tunics and cloaks. We should definitely see more of Welsh, Cornish, and native Britain.
I think it would be cool because it betrays active, correct, in my view, spear usage. Because you should be seeing a lot more spears being used by kind of native. Whereas at the moment, a lot of battles, when you look at the fighting, it's done because spears are the most effective thing at the moment within Western rules, regardless of your society. It would portray, to, in at least my view, like the kind of correct people to use a spear, and especially when you see kind of the kit associated with it. Like I said, in my view, I haven't seen good Welsh kit or Brittonic kit though.
So, for my money, then, things I'd like to see more of: lower status portrayals, and I know that that's a difficult one because although it should be the norm, I know people have aspirations of what they want to portray, and you can't enforce people in scrub kits for the entirety of the time that they're in a group. And even if you start them on low kit in the early stages, they still end up, you get that social progress. So I don't think that one's really attainable in the way.
I think what I found is most really good low status impressions are from people who've done high status impressions and mid status impressions and all sorts of impressions and then come back to it. Because they want to sort of go back to the roots and make a simple impression that's really good. Those are the best ones I've seen. I have also seen some really good ones from newer members who aren't too bothered about buying all the kit and stuff, but that's rarer, I find. But I don't know what you've had in your experience, whether that differs or.
I think there's people who will go for it, like they'll see the merits of doing it. But the natural thing with any hobby, like we all said the other week, we all collect Warhammer. It never stops at 500 points, does it? With the best. I'll only do a combat patrol, and then 2 months later, you're writing out your 3,000 point apocalypse. So
yeah,
it's with it being a hobby, and with the mobility in terms of it's accessible to get more kit and really reach for what you really want to portray, and with what you would have fun with. I don't think it's something that's enforceable. Really,
no.
So
I don't think people should be expected to be limited when they join.
No. And I think we're never going to have an event where we have the right ratio of, levied warriors to actual professionals in the right ratio. But it's a bit of fun, and you can always distinguish that in the living history, which is where all the education happens, really.
Yeah.
In terms of specific portrayals, I think Frankish and Carolingian, I'd love to see more of that. For the same reasons that you bring up the Frisians. And I think I mentioned it in a previous podcast of the focus in the period is Anglo-Saxon, Viking. And even when you distinguish that or break that down to Danes, Swedes, and Norse, that still leaves out the Frisians, the Franks, the Carolingians, and the hundreds of other cultures that were interacting with them at the same time in that time period.
Carolingian's high status kit is also gorgeous. With the tunic style with the strips, the silk strips down the front.
Yeah, because there was a lot of we typically call Roman influence. If that's, I'm sure someone will correct me on the terminology, but
no, I think that's a good way of putting it, because the strips are usually like Roman brocade or Byzantine brocade at that point, I suppose. What were you going to say, Justistance? Did you have something?
Yeah, in terms of the Carolingian stuff, I'm seeing a lot more of that coming out of the French groups.
Yes,
because it's kind of the way. For my, I don't know too much about Western stuff in terms of that in Europe anyway. But in terms of the Eastern scene, I think it's kind of ran its course, or it's running its course to those people that wanted to go and immediately jump to be the Emperor's bodyguards. Do you know what I mean? And instead now, people are actually, and I've mentioned it a couple of times, there's a big push for authenticity. And a lot more people are looking into it about what they want to do and about what they want to portray. And going along that, you're seeing a lot more stuff, at least, from their own cultural background. So you're seeing people in Germany actually portraying different dialects and different population densities of Germany, or the early Holy Roman Empire, whatever it was called back then. I'm not sure. It's not my area, but you're seeing that a lot out there. Fenris Ulfa are a great example of it, where you see quite a lot of their members now have got their battle kit, which is generic as fuck, okay? But their soft kit is exceptional. And a lot of them are growing that way. I'm not saying all of them are, obviously, and I'm just using that group as an example because it was the first one that popped to my mind, based on the bloody French. But I think they're a good example of getting rid of old crap and moving on to new good. And there's people out there, in these, and I'm sure it's in Western, where they're actually, creating the fabric themselves and then crafting it to be something that would have been potentially in that environment many years ago.
I think that's a really good point. And the other thing I'd say as well is, once people see what good impressions can look like, I think they're more convinced.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, telling someone or describing an impression to someone is very different to showing them a picture or even in person. Yeah. What a good impression can look like.
Well, that was certainly my experience. I know back in the old days of my old group, Barcy was fought an uphill battle. And in hindsight, I should have backed him more on it, really, but I didn't see it at the time, the merits, because all I was hearing in a very non-tangible sense was improve the kit, spend more money, do ridiculous amounts of detail, which I know for a lot of the inexperienced is what puts people off. That why authenticity is almost a dirty word in re-enactment when it really shouldn't be. But that changed when I went to a Vike event, where I saw some exceptional kit. And not only did I see the quality of it, I saw, we've mentioned it several times, what good, well-fitted, kit just looks the tits. And I just felt, wow, that is exactly what I had in what I thought my kit would look like, but it doesn't, and here's why. And so yeah, I agree with that point. Being able to see the stuff is.
I think you mentioned it earlier as well. Why when people have kit that just doesn't look right. I mean, there's a difference between the stuff that's a different choice, or it's a more budget option for reenactment, and stuff that is just completely wrong.
Yeah.
Why people that wear stuff that is completely wrong, and then look at people who have good stuff for the same price that's properly tailored and fits them properly, etc., and think, no.
yeah, I know. But like I said, with that pictures example, there are people just quite happy with looking how, their own expectation of it. But that's certainly kept busy for the best part of an hour. I was expecting us to actually have 2 topics to have to cover. But
so was I. I was thinking we'd have to come up with something off the cuff to.
We found plenty of meat to chew on that bone. So we'll leave it there, and maybe people in the comments let us know what impressions you'd like to see more of, or if you've seen some of the ones we'd like to see more of, give some examples in the comments. We'd love to check them out. Just Eastern Things having to cut it short there because he has other obligations this evening. So, on to Barber. Well, this is one of those impressions that I really hate, because to the uninitiated, that looks passable. Now I know you guys aren't uninitiated, so you instantly wince when you see this, and so do I. But I can see that to the public that would look legit. That, you know, there's the trousers, there's the leg wraps, there's chainmail and the tunic and a spectacle helm. But on close inspection,
this is between completely wrong and almost there. I think it's somewhere in that middly bit, but I unlike last week's, I don't think it falls under almost there.
Yeah,
I think there are enough things that that make it bad that stop it from falling into that bracket, in my opinion. Unfortunately.
So are we going to list what we can see?
Yeah, I think seasoned veterans of the Goatworn Armcast will be picking out things left and right. Hopefully, people who know their craft and are watching. They should be able to see instantly what's wrong. Yeah. First of all, that fucking helmet. Yeah,
that thing up again and again and again like a bad smell in a sofa when you sit down, just wafts up.
But Tom, it's listed as Viking on all the shops that sell it.
Yes, it's a replica from a vaguely Viking themed movie.
Yeah,
I do not see why people constantly flock to this helmet. It's not combat safe.
It's Beowulf very Grendel.
It's a film replica. It's literally like using the Delta shields from 300 in fucking, Greek reenactment. They're just not right. The big sheet bronze ones.
Wait, hang on. The sheet bronze ones are legit. You know that, right?
What, really?
Yeah, they were.
What the fuck off massive ones?
Let's talk about that after this.
Yes. Okay. Yes. But you know what? Okay, I'll put it this way: it's like going to a Greek reenactment half naked. So going down, we've got multiple twat trinkets around his neck, as my group leader likes to put them. There's no
1,
need
2,
to
3,
have
4, 5, including one that's the. Sorry, no. Is that 2 replicas of the Icelandic wolf's head cross in bronze and silver?
I see one in bronze and silver. I also see something dark behind the middle one, so that might even be another one.
Oh, yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah. Either a shadow or another one, yeah. I just like how he's got the same one twice.
There's absolutely no need to have that many hammers. Hammers on a man. This is a man. I know it's hard to tell because we've greyed out his face. Hammers on a man is problematic at best. There are exceptions to the rule, of course. There always is. But it's just wrong in so many ways.
No. The more hammers, the bigger your penis. I was told that by someone.
No. That's exact opposite of how it is. Right, so
you know what? His sword actually looks okay. It's a budget replica of the it's the armor class replica of the
which is problematic in itself. He's clearly a Scandinavian. Why is he wielding a Saxon weapon?
It's true. I mean, yeah, but at least you could say it's an authentic sword.
Authentic-ish. It's good for a fighting replica.
Yeah,
Right,
well,
so-
I mean,
so-
at 10 meters,
Yeah, it's one of those ones that is passable.
the baggies look okay.
No, they don't.
Hang on, I was literally about to say but, and then you went no, they don't. I didn't even
They
get a
don't,
chance. No, they don't. That's why I was about to say but and list all the things that were wrong with them. But you came in and you went no, they don't.
I was working.
Congratulations, that's the point.
We're not done at his waistline yet. We don't. Need
Well,
to
I was
to
going.
trousers yet.
Oh, fine.
Well,
I normally
I'm
go
going top
bottom
to
up
bottom.
so I can talk about the horrendous leg wraps.
We're getting there.
Well, no, because we haven't got to the waistline. 'Cause we haven't gone
Fine,
over his
carry
van
on.
braces.
Carry on then.
I noticed he has some authentic van braces,
Of course.
and you know what? The male shirt looks alright, but it shouldn't be split for that period in time. Other than that, I don't have an issue with it from what I can see. The shield handle shouldn't be part of the wood. I don't think we have evidence.
I
of that.
have something for that. Yes,
Okay.
it should. It can be on early period shields.
Ah, fair enough. A bit like
You
the
have
Roman ones,
the-
then.
Yes, very much so. Where they have, but even that one is lacking the metal plate.
Well, what I was going to say is, so they have a metal plate over the top.
Yep. So
Ah.
how we are now viewing that shield, there would be a metal plate over the handle.
What I was going to say is also, I think that's plywood. If that's plywood, that's a really bad idea for a combat shield.
Yep. That's awful.
Because my original combat shield had a plywood handle, and in a one-on-one fight, the opponent hit the bottom of the shield by mistake, quite harshly, and it went. You know how in a car crash, your body wants to stay still, but your body wants to move, but the car wants to stay still. So that's why all your organs get fucked, and you hit the front of the
Yeah.
That happened with my hand and the shield. So my hand thought the shield wasn't going to move, but then the shield it split off at the handle, and the handle just came off.
Oof.
Yeah, it's now got a really nice wood handle replaced, but yeah, it's a bad idea.
Thing is, I always make concessions on shields because they're specifically for us. They're made to get beaten and battered. So
what I'd say
I'm
about
not
this is it's a safety concern,
yeah,
which is why
But
it becomes problematic.
I've made use of that kind of construction for almost the entirety of the time I've been in reenactment until I made a plank shield, and I've not had a problem with them, and I've not seen anyone have a problem with those shields. But then obviously anecdotes aren't evidence. But I can say that it's maybe not as massive a problem as we might be making it out to be.
Yeah.
Still not ideal. It's very obviously modern.
Yeah.
I don't even
the
think
van
he's wearing a
braces-
tunic underneath, by the way.
He is.
No, he must be. Look at the brown on his sleeves.
No, but I don't think it's a tunic. Look at the bottom hem.
He might have tucked it.
I
it's
think
possible.
it might have rucked up under the mail, and it might be a little small for him.
That's possible, yeah.
Looking at him compared to the guy behind, he does seem to be quite a large gentleman.
Yeah.
So there could be reasons to that, but I agree that it does show that tunic isn't made for him if it is too small.
And just to point out, we're not ribbing him because he's a large gentleman. Both Shire Reeve and myself are large folks. We are large and in charge.
We've got some sauce on the side.
would put it.
You are robust.
It's not technically correct for the period, but we are modern humans. So there are concessions. Again, we're not ribbing him for that. Do not take that out of context.
Yeah.
But by that token, you guys have clothes that fit to your specifications.
Yeah,
exactly.
We get clothes fitted to us rather than
Looking at
try
the
and
trousers
squeeze into.
and the tunic, I think those are perkly.
I thought they were as well. It's,
Very
now you say it because, I thought it before, but now you say it. it's clearly we all think it. And
It's certainly a nicer end of Off the Peg, but still
you know what? They wouldn't be as bad if it wasn't that color. It's just a nasty brown.
It's a boring brown. It's like medieval film brown.
And also, don't forget, when you're wearing baggies, the point of the baggies is to show your wealth. You have many, many, many yards of material compared to normal trousers because you are showing off that you are Billy Big Bollocks with your nice fancy trousers. Why would you make them brown?
Exactly. You'd make them decent colour.
You would make them fucking bright coloured fancy pants, right?
Precisely.
I mean, it's just an oversight of understanding why they are what they are, as far as I see it.
Something I think we're probably going to end up skipping over, if I don't say it now, is that utterly atrocious belt.
Yeah,
how many turns does that have in it? And it's
also, they're not long? Neat. I mean, he's just sort of gone and whipped it round, and then
it's just. I really appreciate it is a narrow belt. Narrow belts are chronically underrepresented in reenactment, in my personal opinion.
Maybe,
but that's awful. Oh, right, shush you.
I see lots of narrow belts,
but like 10-centimeter belts.
Yes.
Half an inch.
I see lots of those.
Lucky you. That's all I can say on that. I don't see many.
Anyway,
that's awful. Awful.
I mean, those who have listened long enough know that this is now my time to scream. Yep. The leg wraps. They are. If I think I can name the brand of both the leg wraps and the clips. And if I'm trying to think of what it's actually called, but it's the one where they sell like really clearly synthetic looking clothes. 1 second.
Let's not name them here, eh? Don't give people ideas.
No, they're a big brand. They're not like
I see.
Yes.
Oh, if they're a big brand, go nuts.
Yeah.
It's not like
let me just find what they're called again. I can normally remember the name, but for some reason it's lost me. Bergschneider. I think they're Bergschneider.
Yes.
Because the people that make the really synthetic looking tunics and stuff.
Yep.
They sell those, which are, bear in mind, no stretch in them whatsoever. They are just literally fabric cut in that shape, and then they sell the pins separately. That is why they've fallen down like a square, because they're not tapering to the leg whatsoever. You can see on his other leg. The only reason they have they have stepping, but it's not as bad. But that's because he has chunky legs, and it's actually a lot worse than it looks to the naked eye. It's very that left leg. If it's not falling down already, it's gonna be. And it's don't get me wrong, real. Proper leg wraps can fall down like that as well, but that's usually when you've tied it wrong.
It does take a special kind of, person to do the cheat method with penannular brooches, and they still fall down.
Yeah, I mean, I use hooks. I like leg wrap hooks. That's my personal taking it. But the penannulas I've never understood. I believe we have evidence of them at like knees in graves, but they're just not as good as hooks, period.
I've never come across them. Graves.
I think I've heard about it. I know this is not very helpful, but I have. If
someone in the comments knows of it, please feel free to throw it up. This is something I'd really like to look into.
If we go under the assumption that it's bollocks, then it's bollocks.
Normally, I'd say be charitable, but yeah.
So just because I know that it's the group logo, so I know that it's on our FARB shield as well. cast your eyes to their shield design. The double Valknut and
with a Fenrir. Is it Fenrir?
A modern drawing of a wolf.
There's something else going on there too, isn't there?
No,
a big dark patch.
Oh, that might have been where they painted over.
That's a stain. That's a stain, Tom. Or
Oh,
painted
you
over.
bloody bastards!
Yeah,
that's not anything special.
yeah. But, you always know you're in for a good one when they've got Valknots on.
Are you used to dark patches? You know, on your bed sheets, on your
get
clothes.
Ben. Right. I do have to say the Valknut, obviously. Well, let's not call it that because that's a bollocks name.
Yeah.
But that pattern, it is legit. It does crop up on things, but I wouldn't want to see it on a shield.
My favourite one is the Gotlandic stone, where it's just there's just a big one on a stick.
Yeah. I distinctly remember. I think it's Marrowbud. They run. I've spoken about them very briefly in one of our very early podcasts, and they actually run is it the Triquetra project, where they're actually trying to catalogue every single instance of Triquetras and Valknuts. It might actually be a separate one, actually. Yeah, Valknut Triquetra Marrowbud project. They're trying to catalogue every single instance of it, so we can actually see if there's a pattern. Well, I'm not sure why they do it, but the way I would personally use it is to see if there's a pattern where these things crop up. Because, it's interesting. They do crop up bloody everywhere.
I think it's but we've covered it with the embroidery we saw on last week's. It's contextual. You don't see it on shields.
You have it on jewellery, you have it on weaponry, you have it on household wares.
Yeah.
That's, to my knowledge, what it crops up on.
Yeah. And there's no excusing that, like, Pinterest art wolf.
Yeah, that's bollocks.
Yeah. So, that just kind of, like, I just thought I'd round that one off, because I know we can't see his design on the main far, but that is, I think, the design they've got, which is crap. Just to put it in short. Right, what are we giving him? What's our... Oh, is that... Hang on. Side note, is that a Grimfrost helmet behind him?
No.
No, they're sold by a number of people. They're
okay.
like GDFB tier.
That was actually my first helmet.
Oh.
And even though it is god awful, one thing it does have going for it is fucking bum proof.
Yeah. Okay,
yes.
Scores on the doors. What are we going for?
3 out of 10. 3 out of 10 self handles on shields.
Oof.
Okie doke. Gus?
So much for the order. I'm not even going to give it. I'm going to 2 out of 10 Mjolnirs on a twat trinket.
I mean,
necklace.
the only good thing is the mail and the sword, but the sword's out of periods.
It's why I'm only giving them 2 out of 10. Funnily enough, like it's. I commonly see the 10-meter rule cited, but I don't. To someone like us,
10 meters, this would look. Yeah.
No, lose the helmet, change the helmet. At 20 meters, it might be all right.
You know what? He could lose 2 parts of that kit, and it would instantly look better. The helmet and the van braces.
Mm. And at that point, you're starting to get into sort of like more society, lower rung of societies for sure. But you're starting to get into society kit that way.
Yeah,
it's passable at a distance.
I'd give it 3 Icelandic crosses out of 1, because that's too many. Honestly, I don't get the. I get it. Like it's almost like.
I get having one nice one, right? But I don't get having just loads.
Yeah, it's kind of arse about face, really, with showing your wealth.
Also,
anyway, go on.
what I find funny is like a lot of these people, they'll buy like 5 pewter or cheap bronze reproductions instead of just buying one nice silver one.
Yeah.
You know, I don't get it. I mean, a silver Mjolnir or a silver cross is not that expensive these days, in terms of if you're buying them anyway, right? Like, that's got to be 50 quid's worth plus of Thor's hammers there.
Yeah. No, it's just silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I recognise that bright yellow one.
Huh.
I think that comes from GDFB.
Yeah, more than
One
likely.
of their really cheap, nasty brass cast ones. Not expensive at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've kind of done the deal on this one.
Yeah.
Cast it aside.
Indeed. Get
Get
fucked.
Fire.
Right.
So, that's it for this week. And yeah, so let us know portrayals that you don't see a lot of, or any that you've heard from. Hang on, let me rephrase that. So yeah, in the comments below, any portrayals you'd like to see that you don't see enough of, or any that we've mentioned and you've seen a really good impression of, let us know. Send it our way. We'd love to see it.
Alternatively, let us know if this conversation about impressions that you'd like to see has prompted you to do an impression that you don't normally see.
Yeah, that too. Actually,
That would be awesome.
Good
That would be
discussing.
cool.
Yeah.
If we've actually prompted you to go out and have a look for something a bit more niche and think, oh, that looks quite cool, I'm going to give that a go. That would be an awesome feeling.
Speaking of niche appeal, don't forget to check out the Patreon. Link is in the description, as well as the link to the Goatworn Arm shop. Got to make that plug and get that bread rolling in. Get yourself a cap,
go to the
get
Goatworn
yourself
Arm
a
shop.
shirt. We do face masks and boxer shorts. So if you'd like one of the league on your underwear, let me know and I will make that happen.
Oh, God. That is an awful, awful image.
Especially if it's Ross. Let him know, especially if it's Ross.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
My God, can you just imagine, like, one of us stretched over a sweaty reenactor? No.
Yes. I am a
No.
sweaty reenactor.
Yeah, you'd have yourself on your own boxer shorts, you vein.
Don't
tell you
kink
what,
shame me.
I'm down for each of us modelling our characters on our box.
No.
No,
What as a product image?
no, you've seen me without a top on, partially.
Yeah.
Hey,
You don't
got
want that.
major bear appeal.
Yeah, I know, it's bad, isn't it?
Big Daddy Bear.
Oh, God.
On that note,
Yes.
it is a good night from Guthrum of Norvik, Just Eastern Things, Shire Reeve, and myself, Goatworn Armcast, and we will see you next week, hopefully on your boxer shorts.